This statistics video is going to involve a lot of definitions and writing. There's a few calculations that we're going to do, but you just have to bear with the writing and the interpretation aspect. Okay, so we're just going to define descriptive and inferential statistics, and then we're going to look at some situations where we're using those scenarios. Descriptive involves the organization, summarization, and display of data. So we can organize our information in chart format, summarize it, display it in those different types of situations. You could do charts, graphs, in different ways. Inferential statistics involves using a sample to draw conclusions about a population, and that's what we're going to look at. All right, so in our first example, we are going to estimate a population mean. And all we're really doing when we're doing a population mean is we're taking the mean from our scenario, and we're looking at a sample here of 40 teen users. So a regular mean, we're going to take the sum of our data divided by, in this case, 40. You can take some time to add this up. Normally I won't give you this much data to add up, so I'm just going to give you what the sum would be for this. Divided by 40 comes out to about 299.15. So what we're going to conclude from this sample mean is the estimate for our population mean. We're going to make a conclusion, like we talked about with the inferential statistics, about a population. So we're inferring, we're making this conclusion that based off of this sample of 40, we can conclude the whole population has about that. So the mean number of friends for all teen users of the website is about 299. Now, by using the word about, we're not saying it's exactly 299. We're using that sample and we're making a conclusion that if we were to expand it to every user of the site, it probably would be about that. Now, we're going to look at sampling methods in our next lesson. And in that, we're going to talk about things and samples that would be a good estimation of the entire population and ones that might not. So this may or may not have been a good way to describe that. And then beyond that, other ways we can make conclusions or infer things, we can look at population and sample proportion. So population proportion is the ratio of members of a population with a particular characteristic to the total members of the population. So just like before, when we say we're going to estimate the population proportion, we're going to take the actual proportion from this data, which technically is a sample proportion, and then make a conclusion for that. So actually, before I do example 2, the sample proportion is the ratio of members of a sample of the population with a particular characteristic to the total members of the population. So because we're estimating the population proportion, we're technically going to use the sample proportion and then use that to do that population proportion. So we're estimating the P. We're going to look through and circle how many have more than 350 friends. So if I go down my first column, I get 385, 369, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now it's more than 350, so that's it. So we would do 7 out of 40. So we circle how many of that characteristic is true for our sample. So our estimate is the population proportion is also 7 out of 40. Probably should have defined the sample proportion first, but we did it first together, so kind of makes sense there. Okay, I'm going to stop there because we're already at 7 minutes for this video, and I'm going to take the second video to do the conclusions of some of the other studies and something called margin of error. So you have to watch the second video to finish up your notes.